When you are a woman who is approaching her 30s or is in her 30s, chances are you will feel a lot of pressure when it comes to dating and relationships. You may feel like you are left behind because you are not married, but then you see your coworkers or friends from high school who are getting married, having those celebrations, or some of them are even having children. And you feel this pressure to also be there. You feel the sense of being left behind in life. And a part of you may wonder, is there something wrong with me? Like, is there the reason why nobody has chosen me? Or is it why I'm not married? Because I'm not enough for someone? Maybe I'm meant to be single forever or lonely forever. You may be having those thoughts in your head. But in this video, we're going to be talking about why this particular time, especially when you're feeling pressured, especially when you are approaching 30s or are in your 30s, this is a pivotal moment of making decisions, especially when it comes to your dating and relationships, because the decision that you make, the choices that you make right now are going to impact you for the majority of your life later down. And I want to share this with you from the perspective of having guided clients, women who come into my work where before they worked with me, they have went down this whole rabbit hole of making choices that are not healthy for them, right? Making choices that impact them negatively down the road because they feel that pressure, because they felt this pressure of like, I need to get married fast. And so I want to share this with you here so that you can prevent this mistake, prevent this negative spiral from unfolding in your life, and instead are headed toward peaceful and happy relationships and a peaceful life. So, the common mistakes that so many of women I find out there are making, especially when they feel the pressure to get married fast, to settle down. So, this common pattern, this common mistake that I have seen many women out there making, especially when you feel like you need to settle down, you need to get married as fast as possible, is this thing called rushing. And rushing may seem like this innocent little thing that you do. It may have made you succeed, especially in terms of your career. You may have felt like because you rushed, right? Because you rushed to get that achievement or that title or that promotion, it led you to the path of like getting a high-end career or getting that sale. You may feel like rushing is a good thing. And also in your childhood, your parents may have rushed you to do things that you may not be enjoying or you may not be particularly wary of, but then you feel this rush and pressure to succeed, rush to submit your homework on time, to do things on time, right? So you are used to this phenomena of rushing. But when it comes to dating and relationships, it's actually a thing that gives you more bad than good. Rushing, I call it, it's like this force that actually does not serve you. And the reason why rushing does not is because number one, these women who felt this pressure to get married and to settle down as fast as possible. What ends up happening is that you end up choosing partners that are just good enough, quote unquote good enough, right? They seem like they have everything that you are looking for on paper. They are good, but even though there may be a part of you that's like not particularly attracted or drawn to them, or you still feel that a little bit of an ache, you may ignore these parts of you. But instead, you're like, well, he got the basics needs met, right? I don't need it. I just need to get married fast. And you may end up, therefore, settling with partner. So settling for less, settling with people that you aren't 100% yes to. And what ends up happening is later on, as the relationship spiral, maybe 2 to 3 years down the line or several years down the line, you end up seeing their true colors, their truth of who you are and who they are. And that's when you find that, oh, there's actually a mismatch, right? So settling for people who are a mismatch to you, this is a very common mistake that women get into whenever they approach their 30s and they feel like they need to settle down ASAP. And when you're settling for a mismatch, it may seem like it's not a problem. Like your mind may think, oh, I can just work it out. We can just try to figure it out. We'll figure it out as we come. But what ends up happening is, especially if you're trying to force something that actually is not a match, chances are some things will happen, right? Maybe there's going to be conflict that happens, or maybe you get into motherhood, but then you're unfulfilled. Your motherhood is unfulfilled because you feel like your partner doesn't hear you or see you, or they are not particularly helpful for you. And that is because of this incompatibility. But then we ignore it because we're rushing, right? We feel like we need to find this someone who you can marry to as fast as possible. And then I've also seen women who end up having breakups or divorce. That happens later down the line when you make choices in your 30s based on rush, based on pressure. And you may also feel like when you want to be in a relationship, but then later on someone else who is more of a match, someone whom you have more chemistry with, or someone whom you have more compatibility with comes up later, then you end up regretting. Then you end up feeling resentful, maybe toward yourself or toward your partner, and this relationship, therefore the marriage, therefore is not satisfying anymore, because later you find out something that you could have done better, right? So this phrase of like, I could have done this, I could have done that, becomes evident. And why does all of these happen? Why do these mistakes in our love life, mistakes in dating relationships happen? All of it comes down to rushing. Rushing may seem like this innocent thing that is helping you, but the truth is that when the foundation of your life is built on this shaky foundation, because rushing is actually like, it comes from fear, it comes from pressure, and when your life is based on this shaky foundation, everything else that you build on top of it then ends up crumbling down later. So, which is a no surprise when women come to me and they would say how, like, they're ending in she's thinking about divorce, or she feels judged, she feels unhappy in this relationship, right? All of it is because the foundation was not steady, was not firm, was not peaceful in the very first place. So, this is what we do not want to do, especially when you feel that pressure, especially when you're in your 30s and you do want to marry someone, you do want to find the love of your life. So, this is the force that can actually take us away from what our soul, our truth actually desires. So, instead, you may be wondering, so then what do we do instead, right? When you feel that pressure, what do we then do instead? So instead of rushing, here is what I would do if I was in my 30s and if I was not married, and FYI, I got married at 24, so I may not be particularly exactly in your shoes, but from my experience of working with clients who have walked down this path, as well as also from being someone who is in a peaceful, happy, healthy, committed relationship, here's what I see myself doing if I were to go about in my 30s and let's say I haven't found someone whom I particularly want to date or want to marry yet. So this is what I would do. So number one, the most important thing is instead of rushing, right? Instead of this shaky foundation in your life, which is based on fear of being alone, fear of being stuck, fear of never finding someone, instead of the foundation of your life basing off fear, we want to rebuild the foundation and want it to be peace instead. So instead of pressure, what we are doing here is we're transforming into peace. And we'll talk about more about how that is going to, what that looks like. So first off, in order to transform into peace, so first it comes into realizing that pressure actually doesn't exist in reality. It only exists inside our mind. It only exists inside of the mind that is programmed based off society, what other people have said in society, right? What you have heard from your parents, what you have heard from your friends. Pressure only exists in the mind. It only exists based on the mind that judges. But when you can let go of judgments, whether that is toward life, toward other people, or toward yourself, when you can stop judging yourself, that is when there is no such thing as pressure anymore. You see that everything in life has its own perfect timing, and we can only be not in that timing, not in that exact perfect timing when we are trying to force something that's not organic, right? Like, for instance, rushing. That is a form of forcing. That is not a form of not trusting your true nature, not trusting God's perfect design. It's just similar to how the oak tree is different from an acorn tree to a peach tree, right? Each tree will blossom in their own different timing. And the only way on how they can get out of track and do something that is not natural, right? Maybe they start to bear fruits that are like very tiny, puny, and not really tasting good. The only reason why that happens is because they're trying to copy another tree. An acorn tree is trying to copy a peach tree. Something like that. As humans, it's the same way. Whenever we are trying to copy, whenever we're trying to mimic someone, then we get distracted from our own natural design, own natural rhythm. And so what the first and foremost thing, if I was to experience a happy, a peaceful love life, marriage, relationships, and life in general, is to first realize that pressure actually doesn't serve, and it only exists in the mind. So we're going to be letting go of pressure. And the other thing that's important when it comes to having peace in your love life, dating, relationships, and life in general is to realize that the 30s is especially the time, the perfect time. 30s is actually, it's not the end of life, right? It's not the end of like, oh, so that's a bee, right? Hello, bee. Ooh. The bee is sharing with us the message of discovering ourselves. Just like how the bee is like just going about right there, right? It's like discovering themselves, looking for the perfect nectar in the garden, right? Looking for that nectar in the flower to see what they particularly enjoy, which leads to our message today. In order to have this peaceful life, it comes down to discovering yourself. So instead of seeing your 30s as like, oh my God, I am doomed because I've reached my 30s, right? when you have thoughts like that, not only it's going to make you age faster, right? It's going to make you stress. Not only it's going to do that, it's going to spiral to everything else, right? You're going to feel like your life prime time is over. But instead, the key is to realize that 30s is especially the perfect time to discover yourself. You're going to discover yourself. You're going to find yourself in new ways that you have never done before. This is different from when you're in your 20s. When you're in your 20s, you're trying to figure out what to do about in your life, like how to go about in your career, or you're trying to learn about the world. But now the 30 is a time to discover yourself. So instead of trying to learn about the world, trying to figure out what you should do, now you're really getting into alignment, truer alignment, deeper purpose. 30 is the perfect time for that, because now you have known and explored the world, and you realize that actually the true real fulfillment isn't there. The true real fulfillment is here. And here, who is the one here? It is you. So right now, the main character, the main focus is gonna be you. And there is no better time to do that other than in your 30s, right? 30 is just the birth of this new beginning. So when you start to see that 30s is a great time for you to discover yourself, what ends up actually happening is that, one, you're gonna find what you enjoy, what you love, what you value, and therefore when you do find a partner, the partner is gonna be a greater match. Someone who is even more in alignment than you would have discovered early on in your life. Not that it's not possible to discover someone who's really a match in your 20s, right? Shout out to my husband. But what we're talking about here is how, like, in your 30s, you even have a greater awareness of who you are, which also means that you have a greater awareness of what you're looking for. And when you discover yourself, so then that means that the quality of your relationships are also going to improve. So instead of seeing the 30 as like a curse, right? Instead of seeing that number as a curse, you want to see this actually as a gift. And only when you see it as a gift, then you can use the gift. You can uncover what this gift has in store for you, which leads to my next part. The next important thing when it comes to making your love life peaceful in your 30s is to understand that it is now, because now you know more of what you want, what you love, what you are interested in, right? What you actually value. Now you can make way more time for enjoyment. Right? Instead of like hustling and only thinking about, trying to survive or trying to get your ends meet, right? Now is a time for you to really realize that life is actually about enjoying everything, not only when you get to the goals, but also in the process. In fact, this can apply especially in terms of dating, and it's going to help you, because whenever you're enjoying, what ends up happening is that you start to realize that you actually have so much more to offer, right? It's almost like you are seeing even more of the value that you are. You are experiencing more of the gift of your own presence. You're going to see how you can enjoy. You can fall in love with life, fall in love with reality, no matter where you go, no matter where you are. And when you can be in that state of total enjoyment, then when you do meet someone, then instead of like, oh my God, I need to get from you, right? I need to get your marriage certificate so that I don't get left behind. Instead of that transactional form of a relationship, now it's gonna be a transformative relationship where both of you contribute to each other. So now you can contribute not only what you're good at, right? The things of like the wife material type of things, but now you can contribute your enjoyment, your presence, because now you have learned to enjoy yourself. You have learned compared to your 20s when you're stressed out and when you feel the pressure to be like other people. Right now you can establish your own identity, know who you are, you enjoy yourself more, and therefore you can benefit your other person more. And the same for that vice versa, because a relationship or a marriage is like a plant, right? You can't be like, oh my god, I just need to get fruits out of you. If you are just like getting, it's not going to last. And a true real relationship is where you are also giving water, giving the nutrients to the plant. Only then it can blossom. In the same way, when you are enjoying yourself, you are letting this relationship that's going to happen, the marriage that you're gonna experience, you're giving chances for that relationship and this marriage to blossom even more. And from my own experience, when you are enjoying, like, chances are it just happens super fast, like, because you're not even thinking about like, oh, I need to find this partner. You're just enjoying your time, your moment with like anyone that you meet. You're enjoying your own presence, you're exploring yourself, and in no time, like in my own experience, I met my husband like 2 weeks after installing a dating app, not because I was rushing to meet the special someone, but because I was enjoying. And that is when you're enjoying yourself, you're more willing to put yourself out there too, but also you are unattached to what people think, and therefore you're more magnetic, you're more radiant. And that, my love, is the recipe for having peace in your love life. It's more than just finding the one. It's more than just finding a marriage, a relationship, because if that is your desire, that is already given. Like, it is already given. It is already written by God, by the divine, by the universe. Right now, the question is just about how much you want to enjoy out of life. Now the question is more about how you are going to enjoy on the process of it. And that, my love, when you are enjoying that, not only it's going to serve you in terms of getting a partner, it will serve you when you do get a marriage, when you do get a relationship. The relationship quality is going to be way higher, way more special, way more fun, because now you have learned to enjoy yourself. My love, if you're resonating with this video and you want to have more peace and fulfillment in your relationships, book a free intro session to find out the inner shift that your soul is asking you for in order to transform. The link is in the description box below.